Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Let's do it. What's the creepiest disappearance case that still remains unsolved that haunts you? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Terrence Williams disappeared in 2004 after being taken into custody by a sheriff's deputy near Naples, Florida. It turned out another man named Felipe Santos had also disappeared after being taken into custody by the same deputy several years earlier. A cold case here in Belgium, the disappearance of Natalie Geisterbrechts. 10-year-old Natalie Geisterbrechts disappeared in Liefdal on 26 February 1991, and no trace was ever found of her since then. Every morning, 10-year-old Natalie took the bus to school from the bus stop on Tiversetensweg in Liefdal, about 200 meters from her home. Geisterbrechts attended a special education school in Levenjool. Normally, she walked to the bus stop, but on the morning of the 26th in 1991, her father dropped her off at the bus stop. A neighbor saw her sitting in the gray Toyota Corolla around 7:30 a.m. A man around 50 years old appeared to have broken down by the roadside. He was bent over the open hood. The neighbors saw Geisterbrechts gesturing to her from the car, which she found strange. After dropping from her car her own children at school, she decided to contact Geisterbrechts' school. She was then informed that she had not arrived. The driver of the car had possibly kidnapped Geisterbrechts. Geisterbrechts' father, a career soldier, had just returned from a daily run. He was informed by his superior that his daughter had not arrived at school. Major searches followed in Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, and France. Photos of Geisterbrechts was also distributed, but these efforts yielded no results. In the first few weeks of the investigation, police received 920 tips. More than 120 sex offenders were questioned as part of the investigation. In addition, the names of well-known murderers such as Ludo de Bucheler, Christian van Geloven, Ronald Jansen, Michael Fournier, Andres Pandy, and Marc Dutroux were mentioned in the investigation. No connection could be made with any of them. The Jack family disappearance. In 1989, a whole family in Prince George, British Columbia disappeared after a man at the pub promised a logging camp job to the father husband, and that he could bring his wife and children along. Nobody has seen any of them since. Serenity Denard is the one that sticks with me and bothers me. She was known to run away, which was supposedly part of why she was in the residential facility, where she should have been safe. However, a 9-year-old runs out of a supervised gym in the middle of the morning and is literally never seen again. They waited almost 2 hours to call police, despite it being 5 degrees out and her not having a coat. She couldn't have gotten far, and yet she's never been found. Daniel Moricombe's disappearance from the Sunshine Coast, Queensland, was the one that haunted me. I was not that much older and also caught the school bus. Took them 7 years, I think, to find him, so sad for his family. 4-year-old Dewan Sims in Livonia, Mississippi, 1990s. His mother reported him missing at Wonderland Mall, but when investigators pulled surveillance video, they found the mother but no child. She kept pointing to other women with young children and claiming that was her with the child. Never solved. No one was ever charged. The mother moved away from the area, if memory serves, and she died in 2020. Jack and Lily Sullivan in Nova Scotia disappeared a few months ago without a trace. Honorable mention, Dylan Ayler also disappeared from Nova Scotia. However, the accepted explanation was that he fell in the river and was swept away. I remember reading one unsolved mystery, and I cannot think of his name, but he was a young American guy, maybe 18 to 25 age bracket, and it was either some kids or adults or in bushland, and see the missing guy walk past them in the distance, and when they looked at him and made eye contact, he put his index finger to his lips and made a shh gesture and then disappeared into the wilderness. Apparently, they were the last to see him, and he hasn't been seen or found since. I just found that super unsettling. Crystal Rogers disappeared 10 years ago. A couple years later, her father, who never gave up the search for Crystal, was gunned down while he was out hunting. 3 men were recently convicted in her murder, but they still haven't found her body. There's also several unsolved murders in this small town, and residents wonder if they are connected. This isn't the creepiest, it's the first one I thought of. There was a guy who suddenly bolted out of a public facility, forgot exactly what, across the road out of camera view. I think his face was shown pretty clearly in the surveillance footage too, but he was gone. Another one was of a little kid who disappeared while on a morning paper run decades ago. Watching footage after the fact of someone who disappeared with no audio is creepy. Like, you see this person, they may be acting completely normal, or maybe in a hurry, or maybe out of sorts, but you don't see anything untoward in the video, and that's it. And then once they leave the frame, they're gone forever. Wow. His parents never gave up until he became a grown man and returned to visit his elderly mother. He was accompanied by 2 men who looked like either his handlers or similar. He said he worked hard to be rewarded with a few hours of visitation, but he couldn't talk about what happened to him and what he was doing all these years. He had to leave, and he never returned. Makes me wonder what insane underground organization he was forced to join and what horrors he had to endure to be rewarded. Not exactly creepy, but one that is personal. A friend of mine from uni walked out of his work's Christmas party in 2014 and hasn't been seen since. It was suggested he was walking home, but there's no CCTV of him taking either road out of the village or approaching the lakeshore. He's last seen leaving the bar and then vanished off the face of the earth. The lake and surrounding areas were searched and have been periodically searched again since, to no avail. Given the remote nature of the area, it's unlikely he'll be found anytime soon, though his friends and I like to believe he was living on a tropical beach somewhere. The syndicated show, simply named Disappeared, it aired on several stations on networks. It ran for 11 seasons, some of the creepiest and most unsolved disappearances. Some episodes were about well-known cases, but most were obscure and little-known cases. I had to stop watching that show because almost started feeling paranoid. I have to say, my cousin Janae Rogers, her disappearance and murder has changed my family forever, and the way we move around in this world. I was born a couple of months after they found her. This happened in the 90s in Canada. She left a New Year's party in a cab and said she'd be back. She never came home. For months, my family had searched for her, fought with the police to help. Months later, she was found in the river, bound, tortured, and pregnant. The police never investigated, never followed up on any leads, and claimed her to be just another black drug addict and prostitute, and that it wasn't worth their time. That wasn't her. I remember as a little girl playing in the garage, and I found boxes of her missing persons posters. The heartbreak in my parents' eyes on the walks. As a little girl, I didn't understand what I was saying. I just knew that from her picture on the walls. Another cold case from Belgium, the disappearance of Liam Vanden Brandon. 2-year-old Liam Vanden Brandon disappeared on May 3, 1996, near the Zenagat near Mechelen. Since the establishment of the Missing Persons Unit in 1995, this is the only unsolved disappearance of a young child. On May 3, 1996, Liam Vanden Brandon, his grandmother, was babysitting him and his older brother at her home. A playmate of the two was also present at the time. When the grandmother briefly left the house to go to the bank, she left the children in the care of an aunt. At some point, she noticed that an outside door was open and closed it. Shortly thereafter, she noticed that Liam was no longer at the house. The artist suspected that Vanden Brandon had gone with his grandmother, but after calling a bank employee, she confirmed this was not the case. The aunt then walked to a bar across the street and asked if anyone had seen Vanden Brandon. Several people then offered to help me in the search for the 2-year-old. Meanwhile, the police were also notified. The grandparents' house was located in Zenagat, a rural area with many waterways near Mechelen, where the Zan, Luvenswald, and Diethle rivers meet. The house was located a short distance from the loch, which led to a suspicion that Vanden Brandon had fallen into the loch and drowned. 2 police helicopters were used to search the area around the house and the waterways. Sniffer dogs and driving teams from the Belgian army were also deployed and launched in the surrounding area potential, where witnesses were sought. The search was called off after several days. Dirk Vanden Brandon, Liam's father, believes that kidnapping is also a possibility. He believes there's a chance Liam was taken by someone with an unfulfilled desire to have children. There was also the possibility that Vanden Brandon was kidnapped by someone involved in criminal cliches. In 2011, a boy appeared at the Bundestag in Berlin claiming to have lived in the forest for years. Interpol investigated whether this boy might have been Vanden Brandon, but it's June 2012. The possibility was ruled out. It turned out that the boy was actually a 17-year-old boy from Vandenhart. In 2004, 8 years after the Vanden Brandon's disappearance, a new suspect emerged. During television programs, someone mentioned a German pedophile who lived in Willisbrook at the time of Vanden Brandon's disappearance. This person had ended the day after Vanden Brandon's disappearance. He had been digging in his garden. In April 2014, a search was conducted in this person's garden, but no traces were found. Jody Hoisentreit was a news anchor in Mason City, Iowa, who vanished in June of 1995. Her purse and some belongings were found scattered near her car in the apartment complex. Small Town Turnout says that she was investigating a drug ring. Others believe the police were in on her disappearance. Asha Degree, 9 years old, walked out of her house at like 2 a.m. in a bad storm and cold weather in February 2000 and was never seen again. Doesn't make sense. She left the house at all. The evidence is confusing. Possible cover-up by police or something. Local family being looked at but no arrests ever made. Texts released from the last year look bad, so we are all hoping someone talks soon. Not really creepy, But the Lost Boys of Pickering always stuck in my head. 6 teenage boys went to a party never to be seen again. Police never allowed family to see the apparent surveillance footage. 3 of the 6 were spotted at a marina. Police think they stole the boat and it categorized and capsized, but no clothing, no boat, and no bodies were ever found. It's been 30 years. A creepy story I heard when I was younger was a young boy who mysteriously vanished right out of his home in my mom's village in Mexico sometime in the 80s. The family woke up to find him not in his bed. The large wooden entry door was open and the most outside gate shut and unlocked. I remember the mother panicking and wailing, begging for her child to return. He was 7 or 8, slept in a small room with his 2 sisters, but nobody heard a thing. Neither his whereabouts or a body were ever found. One theory was that they may have had sleepwalked right out and possibly ended up falling into a local volcanic mud pit. They're very deep, and you will never recover anything that falls in there. Trevor Dealey, who disappeared after his work Christmas party in Dublin in 2000, and it was never seen since. There's a CCTV footage of him leaving and his place of work in the early hours of the morning, and a dark figure following him a few seconds later. I live beside where this happened and remember the missing posters so clearly. Can't believe it's been 25 years and still nothing. Ryan Stuka, missing from Sand Peaks, British Columbia, went out with friends, left the party right behind them, and was never seen again. His mom has written a book and they still search the area. No trace has ever been found. There's a Facebook page about it. If you ever come across a little green dinosaur, it may be his story. People take little green dinosaurs around the world and leave them for people to be aware of his story. He's from a community not too far from me, and he's the same age as my brother. Just seems like it could be anymore. Albert Kite murder. Basically, a homeowner was supposed to meet with someone he was going to sell property to. Guy gave fake papers. Days later, the homeowner was found tortured with anal bleeding, tied up and bound without any trace of the killer outside of grainy photos from a camera. If I recall correctly, the killer also had lots of time with Albert, and nobody, not even the neighbors, had any idea the hell that was going on in that campus. This case creeps me out because it leads to a rabbit hole where it turns out there's lots of cases where criminals pretend to buy boats and drive it on sea, followed by killing the owners after. After cruise ship disappearances are also really creepy and sick, that people will just push their spouses overboard so casually, and there's nothing that can really be done about it. That betrayal the victim must feel as they're slowly down must be the worst shit ever. Audrey Mae Herron left her job as a nurse in Catskill, New York on August 29, 2002 and didn't make it home. Both her and her car have never been found. All nearby bodies of water have been checked by police and volunteers, diving squads like Adventures with Purpose, so the likelihood of it being an accident is quite low. There have been a lot of them and theories considered over the last 23 years, but nothing has been proven. This one hits hard because it's local to me, and our area isn't really known for crime. The fact that her Jeep was never recovered is one of the most haunting parts. I think some people think it was buried or crushed by whoever may be responsible for her disappearance. I live in a small town in South Alabama named Up. In '97, when I was a junior in high school, a sweet and well-known girl, Kimberly Raymer, Kim, just disappeared through the night, and no one has answers. We know some people know, but they never, and they won't speak up. And the way it looks is that a couple cops here even know. Like I said, this is a very small town where everyone knows everyone and little to no crime. The FBI and a lot of unknown callers know who the guy is. That's what takes so long. But don't have enough evidence. And that guy's father is also a cop in Walton County in Florida. If anyone wants to see and hear more about her disappearing, there's a Facebook page, Kimberly Raymer. She was 17 years old and she was supposed to get her cap and gown pics that day. We all have played softball together, and she was honestly the sweetest girl. I wish we could get someone that is good at finding people to help her, especially in the winter. The creepiest I've read was about the two girls who went to Panama. In April 2014, two Dutch tourists named Chris Kremers and Lisa Ann Froon went hiking in Panama and never returned. Months later, officials found their bleached bones and disturbing pictures. The details are honestly like out of a horror story. Their backpack was eventually found with their camera and both their cell phones inside with grainy, creepy pictures of them. They also found one of the girls' clothes along a river folded neatly. Then parts of their bodies were found where one of the girls' bones looked bleached. The simplest explanation is that they got lost and succumbed to the elements, but who knows for sure what really happened?